Hi, everybody. This is a really special day. I am talking today with Antoinette Tuff. And if I just said that name and you remember something amazing about her, you're not, yeah, I mean, she's unforgettable. I saw her, and I think the world saw her successfully talk to a gunman who could have potentially done an incredible amount of harm. She had no experience being a hostage negotiator, no experience being any sort of, assistant in that kind of regard, and absolutely had never been in a situation like that. Like, hopefully most of us will never. So she was caught and found herself in a fight or flight situation that none of us could really imagine. And she did that out of pure strength, pure adrenaline, and she's going to tell us exactly what else it took. So welcome, Antoinette.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today on your show.
And it's an honor to talk to you. So go back to that day, and I'm sure it's very difficult, but what happened, as far as, did you realize what was happening, or was everything sort of instinctual? Because like I said, nobody could possibly imagine that happening. And thank God. But I mean, when that happened to you and you were pressed with a situation where there was a gun and potential a lot of harm, and what were you thinking? And do you even remember that moment?
Well, be honest with you, I had tried to commit suicide like 2 days before that. So my life was on a roller coaster ride. Wasn't my first time, but it was my last. Can't say that I could say I was just thinking about this one thing. My whole thing was, at the end of the day, I knew that it was kids in the school. And when the gunman came into the school, it was our busiest time of the year. And so normally would have been a school in the front office full of parents and kids coming back and forth for dismissal. So it was important for me that none of the kids came in and all of that. And also the gunman didn't know that on the other side of where we were was actually a teacher's workroom. So there was teachers and students in there. And so trying to make sure that everybody was safe at that moment while he was pacing on the floor saying that he hadn't taken his medicine and that we were all going to die today. So trying to make sure that we all got out safely. And what also
100%.
made me scary was that it was like 8 months after the Sandy Hook school shooting. So we had all seen innocent children's lives and teachers and staff members' lives been gone too soon. And so all of that was taking place in my mind of like, what do we do next? But I think what actually prepared me for that moment was I had a relationship with God.
Quite right. And I think I remember hearing a lot of that. And it sounded like you also came from a place of compassion. And that must have been extremely difficult. I remember hearing you being very authentic and very open about your own struggles. Do you think that is, what helped?
Well, one of the things that I do now is I do professional speaking and I teach my tough tactics. And those tough tactics are compassion, confidence, and control. And how do we all do that when things come in your life? How do you come back and show a gunman with an AK-47, an irate customer, or someone just screaming on your phone because it's the parent, and you didn't do what she needed you to do for her baby, or you just gave her a child an F? How do you have all of that going on in your everyday life and still show someone compassion at the end of it? So those are some of the tools that I teach when I do my professional speaking. But you're right. For me, that young man was not a gunman. He was a 20-year-old young man who was calling out for help and hoping that someone would listen to him and look beyond the AK-47 and the 500 rounds of ammo.
It's incredible that you were there at that moment. Maybe it was no coincidence. Do you believe that was in your path and that was supposed to happen in your life?
Almost definitely. If I didn't believe it, he passed several schools to get to our school. He parked his car right next to my car. And if that wasn't enough, I was going to relieve the secretary, but I got a phone call from the bank wanting $14,000 in 7 days. And so you come back and you like, they must have get the memo that my husband left me and I ain't got no money. And so when you look at all of that held me up to be able to relieve the secretary, but also put me in place to receive the gunman.
Unbelievable. And how long was that standoff? How long was that actual period of time that you were talking to him?
It was quite long. What you all hear is the second 911 call. The gunman was in the room with me, and that second 911 call was like 20 some minutes or so, almost 30 minutes. So that was the second one. But I had already called 911 the first time. So it was probably about an hour. So it was a long time. Because by
longest hour of your life.
The longest time. You like, please, come on. If you ain't never prayed and won't nobody don't get on the line, it's like, this is me and God's line right here. Don't get on. Don't touch the button. Don't dial in right now. I need him to hear everything I'm about to say. So it seemed like it was longer than it possibly was. But when you got a young man standing in front of you saying that he had not taken his medicine, he had shot in front of me a couple of times. And so when you see all this unfolding before you, it's like, this has got to be a joke. I kept saying to myself, this got to be a joke. Is this a movie or something? It's got to be a joke. You know, you see that stuff on TV, but you never think that it'll ever happen to you. I know for me, I just never thought that you hear it and you hear the kids say it and things like that, but I just never thought that it would be my story.
You're so right. And I think that happens to a lot of us when we're put in very strange situations. We kind of look and it does feel like a movie. We're like, this cannot be happening. If someone's passing away or whatever it is, you don't quite believe it at the time. And I think you act instinctively. So President Barack Obama recognized you, everybody recognized you. And it was just so amazing to kind of see, just an everyday person be so extraordinary. And, then what happened after that? I mean, were you starting to speak a little bit more, or did you kind of take some time away, to sort of process all of this? Or were you kind of getting calls right away to have people come and kind of get your knowledge?
I started speaking right away. So I became the mother, the wife, the bookkeeper, into the celebrity, the author, the one who has the negotiation techniques that didn't know she had negotiation techniques. So it became a whirlwind in my life. But when I look back over it all, it was the most rewarding. And the reason why is because I didn't think that I had life worth living for. And no one knew where I was at until I started telling all my business on the 911 call. No one knew that my husband had left me and I was in divorce and, trying to put food on the table for me and my son. No one knew all of that until that 911 call. But what it did do was allow me to be able to do my book called Prepared for a Purpose.
Yeah, tell us about your book.
And so it was like, okay, what does this actually mean? Because, you can write books and say, okay, it's prepared for a purpose, but what does that mean, right? What I wanted to do with my book was take it from the age of 2 and how God prepared me for that moment when my dad left me with abandonment issues, trying to figure out who I was and not knowing in that validation, to my ex-husband leaving at 33. And so I was still feeling like that 2-year-old little girl at the age of 46, feeling like that 13-year-old little girl who met my husband. And so it becomes, as women, we look for love in all the wrong places, not knowing that the love really comes from within. And how do you know how to validate yourself, understand yourself, and know your self-worth? And so with me writing my book, I wanted people to see that I was an ordinary mom, I was an ordinary wife, and I was an ordinary person becoming an extraordinary person. But everything that was on the inside of me was already there. It just took an AK-47 to bring it out.
That is unbelievable. And I just personally, I needed to hear that today. So thank you today more than ever. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about when you do speaking, what are your core messages? When you do speaking engagements and talks, what do you like to focus on? What do you find helps people the most?
Well, I focus on, it depends upon what my audience is. So if I'm talking to women, I like to be able to focus on how do we stop allowing ourselves as women to be the sponge and we soak up everybody else's life and never take you a mommy moment. How do you look in the mirror and introduce yourself to yourself and love on yourself some? If I'm talking in front of corporations, it's about teamwork and how do us as as the CEOs of our corporations allow our employees to be able to know that their voices matter, or allow our employees to know that we're not so high that we can't look low, to be able to see that there's someone too. So it all depends upon who my audience is. And if I'm talking to a group of just salespeople, allow them to be able to know that, yes, it's all about sales, but how do you build relationships in sales? How do you go back and allow that person that you're selling that product to, or that service to know that I'm not just selling you a product or a service, but I'm also selling you a relationship? And how do we build that so that they can be comfortable with you as you're going forward, to being able to show them what those 3 core messages that we do in my speech, which is tough tactics, which is compassion, confidence, and control, and being able to have that conversation in the crosshairs that sometimes we kind of stand back from. I don't want to touch that sensitive space, but knowing that we can touch it and it's a safe space.
No, it's so interesting what you're saying, because I think too often, we don't come from a place of compassion, and that's what builds, animosity, right? When we kind of look and someone's hurt us and we say, okay, but why? Why did they do it? It's not because they're angry at us. There's something else going on in there, so we need to maybe look and give them a break, because we can't possibly know what it is that's triggering them. And I think sometimes people just be heard. So that's a tremendous message that you're bringing to people, because too often I don't think we listen to people enough.
That's true. But what we do is we don't take a moment out of our busy lives to know that the words that you are about to say can possibly be the words that change somebody's life or save somebody's life.
Well, it's certainly the case in your situation, which I can't even believe I'm talking to you. And it's just, everything about that day was, I think, a pure miracle and divine intervention. And it's exactly what you said. All of those situations lined up. And sometimes we don't know why we go through terrible things until things happen. And, you're a shining example of what has transpired from a tough situation to something extraordinary, and where you're able to help so many different people. What's next for you? Are you looking at another book, or what's happening on the horizon that you want to share with us?
Well, what's next for me? We did my movie called Faith Under Fire, where Tony
I heard
on Lifetime. It was nominated for NAACP Image Award. We also got the Christopher Award. We won that. And so it's now up for nominations and awards for the movie. But also, I started a nonprofit organization called Kids on the Move for Success, where I go back into that school district where the gunman held me hostage, so that I could be able to allow other children to know that they don't have to be the next gunman. So we're going into our 3rd year. We just closed out this week. So we're going into our 3rd year of a mentoring program back into that school district. I selected the school where the principal helped save my life when I was suicidal, her and the assistant principal, and then where some of the teachers are there teaching that were in the school with me that were actually held hostage with me. So I wanted to go back and impact their lives before we take it all over the world. So I have a mentoring program in that school district, a literacy program, and then I also have youth trailblazers that we come back and talk about the safety in our schools, the safety in our communities. We do town hall meetings to be able to bring forth the word and talk about different topics like human trafficking, suicide prevention. I speak on panels. I go to corporations and things like that to be able to speak based off of my book, and also conversations in the crosshairs. What else I do? We do a whole lot of just great things and just changing lives.
You've got a lot going on. You've got a lot of goodness going on.
Just a lot going on. We have Antoinette Tuff's Day in the state of Georgia, and which is August the 25th and the 27th. So I go back on my day and give out scholarships to kids all over the world. And so people come and donate to us. We have movers and shakers on my Kids on the Move for Success, where they come back and they give to us on a monthly basis. And we take those funds on my kidsonthemoveforsuccess.org website and our Movers and Shakers Corner, and we give back to those kids, whether it's educational STEM events, whether it's literacy events. We bring in authors to read to our kids, showing them the importance of it. We partner up with law enforcement, so that they won't be afraid of law enforcement. So we just said like our end of the year event. And so we gave them and our parents some actual safety tips for the summer, you know, kind of letting the kids know what do they need to do, you know, stranger danger zones and things like that. And then we come back and have a big STEAM educational showcase and bring in universities and colleges and community leaders and entrepreneurs. And we take over the whole school on one day, and we rotate over 550 kids through all exhibitors. So just a great way of just giving back to kids and adults and families. With our families, what we do is we come back and do like a big family day. This year we took 36 families over to Universal Soul Circus. You talking about what a day. I had one of my dads say, I ain't going to no circus. I said, well, your wife bought you a ticket, so you're going this year. He was like, no, Miss Tuff, I don't want to go. I'm like, you're going to have a great time. He was the loudest parent there at the circus.
Always the case. It's always the case. Well, it's so great that you're reaching families together and also children at a young level so that they understand that there are resources for them if they're feeling, you know, that they need an outlet. I think it's beautiful what you're doing. Where can people find you if they want more information and they want to keep up with all of your happenings?
So they can go over to my nonprofit, which is kidsonthemoveforsuccess.org. They can donate. We do different blogs on there so they can kind of see what we're doing. They can also sign up for our newsletter there. They can also become a partner with us or even just come back and say, Antoinette, I believe in what you're doing. I want to support you, whether it's a one-time gift or they come back and be able to be a part of our Movers and Shakers Corner. They can also follow us on social media at the @ at KOTM, F as in Frank, S as in Sam, and that stands for Kids on the Move for Success. They can do that with my nonprofit. And with my Antoinette Tuff, they can go to AntoinetteTuff.com, book me to come and speak at their event. They can also purchase an autographed copy of my book there and sign up for my newsletter there to kind of see if I'm in their city next to speak, kind of see what we're doing on both sides of both of my organizations.
Beautiful. We'll put those links in the comments as well. So thank you so much for joining me and keep shining and keep doing what you're doing. You're making a difference.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you today.